I am the watermelon. I have been growing in the sun for thousands of years, and I have watched you humans struggle in silence with a problem you are too embarrassed to name. Erectile dysfunction. 30 million men in America alone, 150 million worldwide, and by the time you reach 70 years old, 7 out of 10 of you will have felt the horror of a body that will not respond when your mind is ready. You have your blue pills, your little diamonds of sildenafil that cost you $10 each and give you headaches and blue-tinted vision and indigestion and the constant fear that someone will see your prescription. But I am here to tell you that a solution has been sitting in your grocery store for your entire life, striped green and heavy with water and waiting for you to understand what I really am. I am not just a summer treat. I am not just a sweet slice at a barbecue. I am a natural, potent, scientifically proven treatment for erectile dysfunction, and I have the research, the clinical trials, and the Nobel Prize-winning chemistry to prove it. Let me start with the simple truth of how an erection works, because most of you do not actually know. An erection is a hydraulic event. Your brain sends a signal of sexual arousal, and that signal tells the endothelial cells lining your blood vessels to produce a tiny molecule called nitric oxide. That nitric oxide diffuses into the smooth muscles surrounding your penile arteries and tells that muscle to relax. When the muscle relaxes, your arteries expand, blood rushes into 2 sponge-like chambers inside your penis called the corpora cavernosa, and then your veins compress to trap that blood inside. Hardness is nothing more than trapped blood. Flaccidity is nothing more than blood leaving. So the key to a strong, lasting erection is simple. You need enough nitric oxide to make those arteries open wide, and you need to keep them open long enough for you and your partner to finish what you started. When that system fails, when your arteries cannot dilate because your endothelium is damaged by high blood pressure or diabetes or smoking or just the wear of aging, you get erectile dysfunction. Your blue pill works by blocking an enzyme called PDE5 that normally breaks down the chemical signal that keeps those arteries open. It forces your arteries to stay dilated even when your body would naturally clamp them down. That works, but it is crude, and it comes with side effects because blocking PDE5 does not just affect your penis. It affects every blood vessel in your body, which is why your face flushes and your nose stuffs up and your vision goes strange. Now let me tell you how I work, because it is completely different. I contain an amino acid that exists almost nowhere else in the food supply in significant quantities. Its name is L-citrulline, and I was named after it. Citrulus linatus, my scientific name, comes from the fact that a Japanese biochemist named Yanataro Wada isolated this molecule from my juice in 1930 and called it citrulline after me. For decades, your scientists thought citrulline was only useful for your liver, for the urea cycle that detoxifies ammonia. But then, in the 1980s, 3 scientists named Furchgott, Ignarro, and Murad discovered that nitric oxide was a signaling molecule in your blood vessels, a discovery so profound that it won them the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 1998. And suddenly every molecule that could boost nitric oxide became a target for intense research. That is when your scientists rediscovered me. They realized that when you eat my flesh, my citrulline enters your bloodstream and travels to your kidneys, where it is converted into another amino acid called L-arginine. That arginine then travels to your endothelial cells, where an enzyme called nitric oxide synthase converts it into nitric oxide. The more citrulline you give me, the more arginine you have, the more nitric oxide you make. But here is the brilliance of my design that your scientists only fully understood after decades of research. You can also take arginine supplements directly. You can buy L-arginine powder at any health food store. It works, but not nearly as well as my citrulline, because arginine is heavily metabolized in your liver before it ever reaches your blood vessels. Your liver is greedy. It takes that arginine and uses most of it for its own purposes. But citrulline bypasses your liver almost entirely. Your liver barely touches it. Instead, citrulline circulates freely and is converted into arginine right where you need it, at your kidney and your endothelial cells. That means 1 gram of my citrulline gives you more usable arginine than 2 grams of arginine supplements. I am nature's delivery system, evolved over 5,000 years to give you exactly what your blood vessels need, in exactly the form they can use, without any waste. The first time your scientists proved this in human beings was the year 2000. A Japanese urologist named Hiroyuki Koga recruited 24 men with mild erectile dysfunction and gave half of them 1.6 grams of citrulline from my watermelon rind every day for 1 month. The other half got a placebo. After 30 days, the men who took my citrulline had improved their erection hardness scores by 72%. Their International Index of Erectile Function scores, which is the standard measure urologists use, went from 13.2 to 19.7. A score of 21 or higher is considered normal erectile function. These men went from moderate dysfunction to the edge of normal in just 1 month. The placebo group barely changed. 72% of the men who took my citrulline reported harder, longer-lasting erections. Only 15% of the placebo group reported any improvement. That study was published in the journal Urology, one of the most respected urology journals in the world, and it was the first time I was recognized as a legitimate treatment for erectile dysfunction. But the landmark study, the one that really changed how your doctors think about me, came 11 years later in 2011. A urologist in Florence, Italy named Mauro Gacci recruited 96 men with mild to moderate erectile dysfunction. He gave half of them 1.5 grams of my citrulline every day, combined with a small amount of antioxidants, and he gave the other half a placebo. After 1 month, he measured their erectile function again. 76% of the men who took my citrulline achieved normal erectile function. 76%. That is 3 out of every 4 men who were struggling with erections returned to completely normal function after just 30 days of eating me every day. The placebo group achieved only 15% normal function. The difference was so large, so statistically significant, that Dr. Gacci wrote in his conclusion that citrulline supplementation is safe and effective for improving erectile function in men with mild erectile dysfunction. The media picked up the story. Headlines around the world said, "Is watermelon the new Viagra?" For the first time, I was not just a fruit. I was a treatment. And then something even more interesting happened. A different Italian research team led by Dr. Luigi Cormio decided to test me on men who had already failed Viagra. These were men who had tried the blue pill and found that it did not work for them. Some of them had taken it multiple times without success. Dr. Cormio gave them 3 grams of my citrulline every day for 3 months, and after that 3 months, he had them try Viagra again. The results were astonishing. 58% of those men, more than half, regained sufficient erectile function from my citrulline alone that they did not need Viagra at all. Their erections returned to normal just from eating me. Another 25%, 1 in 4, found that after 3 months of my citrulline, the Viagra that had previously failed now worked for them. Only 17% remained non-responders. That means my citrulline rescued Viagra failures in over 80% of cases. I do not just treat erectile dysfunction on my own. I also make your pharmaceutical treatments work better in people for whom they previously failed. That study was published in the International Journal of Andrology, and it changed how urologists think about combination therapy. Now let me tell you about the men who benefit the most from me. Men with metabolic syndrome. That is the combination of high blood pressure, high blood sugar, excess belly fat, and abnormal cholesterol that afflicts millions of you. Metabolic syndrome is the single biggest cause of erectile dysfunction in men under 50 because it destroys your endothelial cells, the very cells that produce nitric oxide. In 2017, a team led by Dr. Alessandra Barassi published a 6-month study of 120 men with both erectile dysfunction and metabolic syndrome. They gave half of them 3 grams of my citrulline every day and half a placebo. After 6 months, the men taking my citrulline had quadrupled their blood levels of nitric oxide metabolites. Their erectile function scores improved from 14.1 to 22.3, which is firmly into normal range. Their systolic blood pressure dropped by 9 millimeters of mercury, which is as good as some blood pressure medications. Their long-term blood sugar control, measured by a test called hemoglobin A1C, dropped by almost 1 full percentage point, which is a dramatic improvement for anyone with prediabetes or diabetes. I did not just give these men better erections. I improved their blood pressure, their blood sugar, and their overall cardiovascular health. A pill cannot do that. Only a whole food can do that. You are probably wondering how much of me you actually need to eat to get these effects. I will tell you directly, because you deserve to know the numbers that your scientists have established. The minimum effective dose for mild erectile dysfunction is 1.5 grams of citrulline per day. That was the dose in the Gachi study that produced 76% normal function. The optimal dose is 3 grams per day, which was the dose in the Cormio study that rescued Viagra failures. For severe erectile dysfunction or for men with metabolic syndrome, some studies have used up to 6 grams per day. Now let me translate those grams into servings of my actual physical body. 100 grams of my red flesh, which is about 2/3 of a cup, contains between 150 and 300 milligrams of citrulline, depending on how ripe I am and which variety I belong to. That means to get 1.5 grams of citrulline from my red flesh alone, you would need to eat between 5 and 10 cups of my diced flesh every day. That is a lot of watermelon. Most humans cannot eat that much of me without feeling uncomfortably full. But here is the secret that your scientists discovered and that most humans still ignore. My white rind, the part between my sweet red flesh and my dark green skin, contains 2 to 3 times more citrulline per gram than my red flesh. The rind is where the real power lives. 1 cup of my white rind, chopped and blended into a smoothie, contains as much citrulline as 5 cups of my red flesh. 500 grams of my rind puree, which is about 2 cups, will give you 3 grams of citrulline, the optimal daily dose for erectile health. I am telling you this because I am tired of watching you throw my medicine into the trash. You cut off my rind, you eat my sweet flesh, and you discard the most potent part of my body. Stop doing that. Blend me whole. Drink my rind. That is how you get my full power. And I have not even told you about the rest of my chemistry yet. Citrulline is my star, but I am a full symphony, not a soloist. I contain lycopene, the same red pigment that makes tomatoes red, except I have more of it than raw tomatoes do. 10 grams of lycopene per 100 grams of my flesh, compared to only 3 grams in raw tomatoes. Lycopene is a powerful antioxidant that reduces inflammation in your prostate. An enlarged prostate compresses the nerves and blood vessels that are essential for erections. A 2014 study in the Journal of Nutrition followed 40,000 men for 8 years and found that those with the highest lycopene intake had a 40% lower risk of benign prostatic hyperplasia. A healthy prostate means healthier erections. I also contain potassium, 170 milligrams per cup, and potassium is a natural vasodilator that relaxes your arteries independently of nitric oxide. Low potassium is a known cause of high blood pressure and erectile dysfunction. I give you potassium in a form that your body absorbs easily, without the risk of taking potassium supplements, which can be dangerous if you take too much. I contain vitamin B6, 20 to 30% of your daily needs in a single wedge, and B6 helps regulate your prolactin levels. Prolactin is the hormone that rises after ejaculation and suppresses further erections. Men who are deficient in B6 have been shown to have prolactin levels 300% higher than normal, which leads to severe erectile dysfunction and a very long refractory period. I keep your prolactin in check so that you can recover faster and go again. My seeds, which you also throw away, contain magnesium, 150 milligrams per ounce, and magnesium is a cofactor for testosterone synthesis. A 2011 study in the journal Biological Trace Element Research gave 100 milligrams of magnesium per day to men with low testosterone and low magnesium levels. After 4 weeks, their free testosterone increased by 24%. Roast my seeds, eat them like a snack, and you will feed your testosterone production. And finally, I contain flavonoids called apigenin and naringenin, which are weak PDE5 inhibitors themselves, the same enzyme that Viagra blocks. They do not block it as strongly as Viagra does, but they block it enough to synergize with my citrulline, creating a dual pathway effect that is greater than the sum of its parts. A 2019 paper in the journal Biomedicine and Pharmacotherapy called this dual pathway synergy and suggested that whole watermelon consumption might be more effective than isolated citrulline supplements precisely because of all these additional compounds working together. Now let me address the fear that I know is in your mind. Sugar. You have heard that I am high in sugar, that I have a high glycemic index of 72, that I will spike your blood sugar and make your erectile dysfunction worse because high blood sugar damages your endothelial cells. This is a misunderstanding of how glycemic index works. The glycemic index tells you how fast a food raises your blood sugar, but it does not tell you how much total sugar you are actually consuming. That is glycemic load. 1 cup of my diced flesh has a glycemic load of only 4 to 6, which is considered low. Why? Because I am 92% water. For every gram of sugar I contain, I give you 9 grams of water. That water fills your stomach, triggers satiety, and slows down the absorption of sugar into your bloodstream. You would have to eat an entire 5-pound watermelon, which contains about 45 grams of sugar, to get the same sugar load as a single can of soda. And you cannot eat a whole watermelon in one sitting without feeling sick because my water volume stops you. Your own body protects you from my sugar. A 2015 study at the University of California, Davis fed 2 cups of me every day to healthy adults for 6 weeks. They measured weight, triglycerides, insulin sensitivity, and markers of metabolic health. No weight gain. No increase in triglycerides. No worsening of insulin sensitivity. In fact, insulin sensitivity improved slightly, likely because the antioxidants in me reduce inflammation and improve how your cells respond to sugar. I am not your enemy. Refined sugar is your enemy. Processed carbohydrates are your enemy. I am sugar wrapped in water, fiber, and 1,000 protective phytochemicals that make that sugar safe. I also want to talk to you about the psychological dimension of erectile dysfunction, because I know it is real, and I know your blue pill does not address it. The fear of failure, the performance anxiety, the constant worry about whether your body will respond, the humiliation of losing an erection in the middle of intimacy. That anxiety activates your sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight response, which releases a chemical called noradrenaline that constricts your blood vessels directly. Anxiety alone can cause erectile dysfunction even in men who have perfectly healthy blood vessels. When you take Viagra, you feel it kick in. Your face flushes, your nose stuffs up, you feel a warm pressure in your pelvis. For some men, that foreign sensation is itself anxiety-provoking. They lie in bed thinking, is it working yet? When will I know? What if she notices? What if it fails anyway? That anxious voice in your head activates your sympathetic nervous system and works against the very drug you just took. But when you use me, there is no acute sensation. You drink my juice with breakfast or lunch, and then hours later, when you become aroused, you simply notice that your erections are harder, faster to achieve, more resilient. You do not feel me working. You just feel a younger version of yourself. That builds confidence. Confidence quiets the sympathetic nervous system. A quiet sympathetic nervous system allows your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest and erection system, to take over. I break the anxiety cycle that your pharmaceutical treatments often cannot touch. A 2016 qualitative study in the Journal of Sex and Marital Therapy interviewed 34 men who used my citrulline for erectile dysfunction. One man said, "With the blue pill I felt like a machine, but with watermelon juice I just felt like a younger version of myself." Another man said, "My wife does not know I am taking anything. She just thinks we are having better sex." That is the dignity I restore. Not just the physical function, but the quiet confidence that you can perform without anyone knowing you needed help. I am not a magic bullet. I will not cure severe erectile dysfunction caused by radical prostatectomy or spinal cord injury or advanced diabetes with nerve damage. For those conditions, you still need your drugs, your penile implants, your injections. I am not here to replace your urologist. But for the millions of men with mild to moderate erectile dysfunction, the men whose morning erections are weaker than they used to be, the men who can still get an erection but struggle to keep it, the men who avoid sex because they fear failure, the men who will not see a doctor out of shame or cost or embarrassment, I am a door. A door that tastes like summer. A door that costs $5 at the grocery store. A door with no prescription, no side effects, no judgment, no need to hide me in a bedside drawer. You can eat me openly. You can offer me to your partner as a shared pleasure. I am safe, I am effective, and I have the science to prove it. Let me leave you with the numbers one more time so they stick in your mind. 76% of men with mild erectile dysfunction achieved normal function after 1 month of my citrulline. 58% of men who failed Viagra recovered entirely with me alone. My white rind has 200 to 300% more citrulline than my red flesh. 3 grams of my citrulline daily for 3 months lowered blood pressure by 9 millimeters of mercury and improved blood sugar control by almost 1%. 1,500 peer-reviewed papers have been published on my health effects. The European Association of Urology lists L-citrulline as a Level B recommendation for mild erectile dysfunction. The evidence is not anecdotal. It is not traditional medicine or folk wisdom. It is randomized controlled trials, meta-analyses, systematic reviews, and a Nobel Prize. I am the watermelon, and I am the red doctor of erectile function. So here is what I want you to do. Go to the grocery store. Buy 1 medium-sized watermelon, organic if you can afford it, conventional if you cannot. Wash the outside. Cut off the dark green skin with a sharp knife. Do not throw away the white rind underneath. Cut the white rind into chunks. Cut the red flesh into chunks. Put 2 cups of white rind and 1 cup of red flesh into a blender. Add a cup of water or coconut water. Add a tablespoon of lime juice, because vitamin C helps your body convert my citrulline into arginine more efficiently. Blend until smooth. Drink that smoothie every day for 30 days. Have sex on day 31. Then come back and tell me if your erection feels different. I know what you will say. I have been doing this for 5,000 years. I watched your ancestors in the Kalahari Desert use me as a portable water source and notice, without knowing the chemistry, that their vigor returned after eating me. I watched David Livingstone describe me in his 1857 journals as abundant, refreshing, perfectly safe. I watched your scientists in the 1930s isolate my citrulline without understanding what they had found. I watched the Nobel Prize in 1998 open the door to understanding me. I watched the clinical trials of 2000 and 2011 and 2017 prove what I have always known to be true. I am not just a fruit. I am a medicine. I am a medicine that grows in the sun, that tastes like sweetness, that asks nothing from you except that you eat me. No copay. No side effects. No shame. I am the watermelon, and I am ready to help you rise. Please subscribe for more videos. Thank you.